Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt and this is Cutting Through the Matrix on the 6th of May 2018. But it's hard to fight against, isn't it? Terminology is awfully important for brainwashing and deceiving the people. You're living in an incredibly well-organized, total system where you've never had a time where so much propaganda is inserted in novels for books, children's books as well. The entire school system with the teachers' toolkits on how to get everybody's brain wrapped around this central pole you're going to give to them to believe in, and for how to bypass or overcome those who were resistant to the indoctrination. It's amazing. But what's more amazing is that people don't even realize what's happened. It's sad, isn't it? Very, very sad how you can be deceived, you can be used. I mentioned before about how the Illuminati, the old Illuminati system, how it had copied the Jesuit technique of confession of its own priests. But the Jesuits did it in order to find the weak spots to make them strong. Because we're going to send these guys off around the world into places where people would still eat you. So you have to be incredibly strong. And any weakness they had, it couldn't be a chink in the armor to bring them down. Whereas Weishaupt thought he would use a similar system, get the confession. Again, give the recruits, his recruits, another system to believe in and a cause to believe in, which sounded awfully good, really. The brotherhood of man and all that stuff. But in reality, it'd be for world domination by a secret clique at the top. And that's why it's been copied ever since. And anyone who eventually clued in they were being used could be blackmailed because they confessed. So once again, the mirror image copy a system where the people really believe for the good of humanity. They go out and help the poor, feed the sick, all that stuff, and give them a strength so they couldn't get a chink in the armor and collapse. Because if you collapsed, you could bring other ones down with you. But Weishaupt's technique was to use a managerial class, get the same thing going, and threaten them if they decide to leave, for instance. You'll find the poets, for instance, Shelley, for instance, he was part of the later group too. He talked about it quite openly, how he believed he was a member of this organization. At that time, they saw it as a revolutionary force. You have so many statements from members or ex-members of different organizations, all umbrellaed under the same group, by the way. And they all have charitable works to help their own people, supposedly. And they also believe, even the lower orders, that they're somehow special. You've a few basic ideas that they never dreamed up on their own, left to themselves, and they now feel superior to everybody else, who they're called the profane. Utter arrogance. The same kind of arrogance, as I say, you find from professors, for instance. Professors who want to manage us, cull down the herd of humanity, who openly discuss it in some television stations in other countries, that they've got to start thinning out the herd and sterilizing compulsorily the general population. And there are humane ways of killing people, so they won't know they're being killed off. You could put it in your food, you could put inoculations. It's been discussed. Bertrand Russell talked about it. He says, by use of the needle, for instance, water. And yes, they do discuss these things. They do. And that hasn't changed, that hasn't stopped. The incredible arrogance. Today, and like last week too, I mentioned about the identity politics and different splitting off of all kinds of people, things that would keep people together, to stand up together. Now they're all in their own little compartments. I'm a this, I'm a that, blah, 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 blah. And do you really need someone, and think about it, who is a professor to tell you that a man is a man and a woman is a woman? Do you really need that? You better think about that too and think, why do you need that? Don't you trust yourself? If a man is XY chromosomes and a woman's XX, they'll be that way till they die. But we're in such an age that the more divisions you can create within society and manage each division, by the way, then you can really stop people uniting to fight for their basic rights. Without basic rights, you have none at all. None whatsoever. And you must have the right of privacy, for one. It's incredible how far it's gone, taking away your privacy. Incredible. And open, so open today. They can do whatever they want with your information. Like Yahoo's come out with it now. Incredible. Everything you put out there that they can see is theirs. Everything. They can take it, use it as they wish, and sell it to who they want to be. You have no comeback on them on any grounds whatsoever. And you pay for this? But by the way, they're all going the same way. Most of them are already that way anyway. They just lie about it. Do you think Facebook's changed? Do you really think that? That's a good con, that one. That's a good con. There's nothing better than to put folk back to sleep when they're starting to see, is this all kosher, you know? There's nothing better than pretending a little inquiry's gone underway and you've changed. Mm-hmm. Now, how we're managed today, right? And you still think you're democratic. If you're democratic, then anything that should affect the general public, I don't care about all the different groups, all of you, right, should be put to the vote. Like Switzerland does on major things. They really do. How long they've got to continue like this, I don't know. It might be a long time yet. They are the Red Cross, remember. Here are some articles, for instance, to show you about this incredible behemoth of a strata, multi-layered strata of new management, all on top of us, all to manage us. And they call it management. They mean total mind management too, by the way. So we'll touch on some of them here tonight. I hate reading. I'm not going to read the news for you, the general news with the wars to come, because we all know it's set in stone. We know this. We've seen other ones get slaughtered, bombed to the Stone Age. You know this. So why repeat what the major media is going to tell you? Because they're all on board with it, obviously. Now here, I'm going to use Canada as an example, because Canada's awfully avant-garde about it, about the management of everybody and everything. Completely on board with it. Don't forget too, Canada was signed on for world government before anybody else was. And we've had prime ministers in Canada said they're all for world government and giving up its national sovereignty. So why do we bother voting for a nation in that case? Anyway, Impact Canada Initiative is an example because you all have the same organizations working in your countries. It's global, remember. It was announced in Budget 2017, the Impact Canada Initiative. It's a whole, this is what they call it, is a whole-of government, hyphenated, effort. Whole-of government. You would understand what they're saying here. They're talking about the multi-stratal layer that I just mentioned to you, about people management. Effort that will help departments accelerate the adoption of outcomes-based funding approaches. Outcomes-based funding approaches to deliver meaningful results to Canadians. You understand how it's purposely vague as well? Except they're going to give lots of your tax money to all these other groups. I might mention some of them tonight. They're going to manage you, just like the Soviet system. This is a new super Soviet, the way it's supposed to have been, but never got to in Russia. And the States is the same. They've got it working out too, under sustainability and so on. Anyway, it says, outcomes-based funding approaches represent a new way of managing grants. Your grants, they give them massive grants, these private organizations, and contribution funding that shifts the traditional emphasis on process and outputs towards one where payments are tied to the achievement of measurable economic, environmental, and or social outcomes. See? So these are organizations, private organizations, getting massive funding to change society on behalf of the masses, which means they already know where they're going to change you to. Your way of thinking, living, and all the rest of it. A big article in itself. And everyone who belongs to these organizations will understand perfectly well what they're on about, but it'll be partly vague to the general public. Now here are some of the different subdivisions within this article here. Innovative funding and partnership approaches. They even talk about laundering large-scale challenges to crowdsource up their solutions and pressing problems, getting the public to participate in something now where they haven't got a clue what it really is all about. They think they will, just like the Illuminati did. The members all thought they knew, but they were getting used by a very powerful group at the top. But also they mentioned about how they've got the private sector involved, drawn together, government, private sector, philanthropic and non-profit sectors. Now, philanthropy, remember, is an article to do, I read that a few years back in fact, to do with the CFR, for instance, and the big foundations. And this is why you're seeing the rise of what you think are self-made people, and they're not at all. The Bill Gates and Zuckerbergs and so on, to participate in how you should live and how your life should be run and all the rest of it. You don't vote these folk in, but see how they've slickly made it sort of almost normal that they're involved in the Gates Foundation. They get inoculations and vaccinations across the world, whether the people want it or not, and things like that. How come they're all on board in the same agenda? You set a magic number of income, and then you're a philanthropist, and you're all on board with the same thing. Bring down the population, and you promote this and that and the other things. It's rather odd, isn't it? It must be like a religious experience when it all comes over them all of a sudden. And I got to help the people and make sure they all get vaccinations and eat food that's going to poison them, etc. Impact measurement. The team has worked with partners, co-design, co-develop evidence-based approaches to ensure improved program outcomes. So there's even got specialized departments just making sure that how it all works, how you can implement it and make it work. And other ones that come along and study them to make sure that it works, like this behavioral insights, for instance. They've got behavioral insights teams. And this team has extensive experience supporting the execution and delivery of experiments and projects incorporating behavioral insight methodologies. When you bring in new things into society, for instance, if they want you off the land, which of course under Agenda 21 they do, and Agenda 21 isn't out the window with 2030 and so on. 2030 are subdivisions of the implementation goals of Agenda 21. The 21 is for the whole century, things that must be put across and finished off in this 1 century. And they want you off the land. So how will the people behave about it? How would you put it across to fool them and make them go along with it and convince them that they should really just give it all up, Well, you bring in your special behavioral insights team. They have experience and studies on large and small scales, it says here, experiments that they've run before, and the strategic application of behavioral science, see, to policy development in direct support of Government of Canada's core mandate and commitments. Why doesn't the government come out and just tell the general population that pays their wages, awfully good wages at that, what their big goals are, eh? And that will be the day. Next, the other initiatives that the IIU is working on include increasing recruitment of women into Canadian Armed Forces, etc. That's again, it goes right along with Plato's whole idea of bringing in women into the forces too. And then you breed the male and female together to create an army, a constant army, intergenerational army. Interesting, that too, isn't it? I'll put that up anyway. You have to read it for yourselves. It's really interesting. Really, really interesting. And it says privacy statement that information you provide through the surveys and so on is collected under the authority of the Department of Employment and Social Development Act for the purpose of measuring the performance of Canada.ca and continually improving the website. That's our website and so on. but it doesn't really go into detail for the general public who are out with the picture. It's meant to be, you're meant to be out the picture. They don't want the general public looking into their websites in Canada. Or it's meant to be so vague you would never catch on what they're up to. Another one too is this article here. It's basically a message from the minister that says, to do with smart cities. The Smart Cities Challenge, for those who don't know what it is where you bring forth the Google and all the other Wi-Fi and internet systems together and manage all information on every single person 24 hours a day, no matter where they are within their smart cities. What heat they've got their heat turned to, air conditioning perhaps, how much electricity they've used that week on what, and all that. Yada, 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 yada. Total management. And you still think you are democracies? What planet are you from? So anyway, and did they ask the people if they want this? No. And do big payoffs get made to even council members and stuff? Of course they do. Yeah, big time. So anyway, I've got an article there about that 2 Smart Cities Challenge overview. And again, the big massive grants getting given out of your tax money. It ties in with the last article. It's a competition, Smart Cities Challenge. It's a competition open to all municipalities, local or regional governments, and indigenous communities. By the way, they can win millions of dollars. Millions, to find ways to start implementing it in their own little areas. Not bad, eh? What is a smart cities approach? What is it, eh? Openness. When communities make their data truly accessible, that's all your data. Usable and barrier-free, their decision-making processes become transparent, empowering citizens and strengthening the relationship between residents and public organizations. Public organizations? Is that these little NGOs, the new Soviet systems? Of course it is, folks. That is the employment for the future for the psychopaths who are listening out there who want to jump on the bandwagon and become very wealthy. You won't get it in any actually making and producing things anymore. This is where the big money is. Also, Hanoi studies Canada, Vietnam, because Canada is showing them how to develop a smart city development. Not good, eh? So we got a delegation over from Hanoi. And they visited Canada from April 18 to 20 to learn about the operation of people-elected agencies. People-elected agencies, there you go. And development of smart cities in the North American country. Not bad, eh? Canada's ahead of all these old communist countries. And then you have the area called, the city called Moncton, taking part in the Smart Cities Challenge again. And it gives you ideas, incredible amount of money they're putting up there for tax money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, to really make sure they can bring on board those who have any say and sway over the general public in their own area. Is that called a payoff? Oshawa in Ontario, the next city to join Bell's all-fibre broadband network. Isn't that not wonderful? It's got $100 million plus investment, deliver world's best internet technology to approximately 60,000 residences and businesses. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. Through a stair here, where I am, 2 or 3 years ago, actually, the poles went up, new big poles for electricity and cable and the rest of it, and the big fibre optic cables that go all the way through this little village here. But they're not going to take any off for high-speed internet to the general population in this little area. Why? Because, and I've read you the articles from Winners and Losers in the Coming New World Order, Jacques Attali, and all these subsequent books as well. And he said that the winners will be those who get high-speed internet and so on, and those who are in the countrysides and can't get it and can't afford high-speed because you've been paying hundreds of dollars a month to get even, say, 50 gigs in the country. And if you've got a family, they'll go through that rather quick. So nag, can we go to the city? There you go. Bing, Agenda 21. Anyway, here's an article, as I say, the Bell's all-fibre broadband network. How wonderful it will be and how we're going to tie that in too, to all the big smart cities too, etc., etc. Although Bell has the monopoly really on everything in Canada, and everything else is basically sold off and rented out to other companies. Also, Tesla's experiments with smart power grids. Again, they're doing it in Canada and Nova Scotia. So pilot projects will use combination of Tesla's Powerwall 2-home batteries. And it's amazing how we pay for setting up the factories to build all this stuff for these private individuals, isn't it? And it's not a bad deal being a big obviously a very specially elected person at a very high level that's way above what the public they can't even get near them, for instance, these people with their electric cars. No, it just happens to be this is the agenda. Here's the front man to pretend it's all his, and here is your government money, your taxpayers' money to make their big businesses flourish. Quite something, eh? And the whole world is under this. South Australia, 2 Tesla partner on world's largest virtual power plant. Again, too, it's virtual one too. I guess you may pay them in virtual money, maybe monopoly money or something. And then you have this article too, ICLEI. Awfully important. I've mentioned this many times before in the past about how they all grafted themselves on your local councils, even the smallest towns, and how they're managing you too. Awfully well, in fact, aren't they, really? As we bring in their whole system. And it really is the local governments for sustainability. Again, massive grants again. Founded in 1990 as International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. International Council? Do you vote for an international council, people? No, you don't. So, it's an international organization of local governments and national and regional local government organizations, private. You don't vote for them. That have made a commitment to sustainable development, Agenda 21. And they're on every board of every council across the country. And you don't elect them in, but they're there. And they get paid now. Initially it was free, they're voluntary initially. We're do-gooders and we're here to help you. And now you've got all these different, to build even a small hut somewhere, you're going to need an environmental study and this, that and the other, and impact studies, yada, yada, before you can do anything. And then wait for permission. Another one too is become part of a national program focused on resilience and adaptation, the Building Adaptive and Resilient Committees, BARC, a program, or a comprehensive way to respond to the impacts of climate change. Everything's mixed in together. And don't forget climate change, which has always been here from, I guess, the day the Earth just popped out, or whatever you want to call it. It could be. And here we all are. We've always had climate change. But now it's all your fault for climate change. Apparently it's supposed to be static all the time, just bright sun, a nice 75 degrees, and, forever and ever. But it doesn't seem that, so it must be all your fault. And you're going to pay for it dearly and go into austerity and do what you're told for the future. Forever and ever, amen. Because that's how it's planned. So anyway, you have this BARC, so they give you an online tool, etc. Why join? It says build internal capacity and work collaboratively. That's with all their Soviet systems. Prepare for more costly and extreme weather events. Oh, they'll make that happen since weather control is routine today. Collaborate with peers and other municipalities. But don't ever go to the public and tell them what you're up to, or that you even exist. And receive support with ICLEI's proven adaptation frameworks, foster enhanced stakeholder engagement, and make informed decisions and improve resilience. I can't stand bureaucraty's speech. Can you? But this is where we're all going. You have no say in this. So why bother voting, folks? Why bother even voting? And so, changing climates and all the rest of it too. Stacks of articles actually from ICLEI Canada. And in an increasingly urban world, cities and their surrounding regions have a growing influence on global patterns of production, consumption, innovation, and technological development. At the same time, they're experiencing rapid change brought about by urbanization, climate change, shifting demographics, and growing inequities that will continue to impact the urban environment. It's all your fault, you see. What happens now in and around urban areas will define the course of global sustainable development this century. Collective action in the most pressing urban issues of our time is critical. So there you go. You got to hand it to all these private organizations. That strata and layers of this that you have no idea even exist anymore, that did not exist a few years back. Also, new charity child sex abuse scandals sparked after UN launches probe into 60-year-old former WHO, that's the WHO, and UNICEF official, naturally it's UNICEF, arrested after being found with 2 boys at his home in Nepal. I've read so many articles over the years of this kind of nonsense, it just makes you sick of it. So Peter Dalglish, I think he's from Canada, of course, got caught with his 2 little boys, and he's there to help you from the United Nations. We've got Earthcare Thunder Bay, this is in Ontario again, in partnership with Lakehead University, has launched a new climate change website, and launched the website coincides with Earth Day, which was Sunday, April 22nd. I think everything works together, eh? Just happens to appear in your calendar, and next thing you know, you're... The website is a resource hub that brings together carefully selected, locally relevant information regarding climate change. Right? So there you go. All these supranational organizations running us all, and we don't elect any of them. Bill Gates calls on US to lead fight against a pandemic that could kill 33 million people. No kidding, Bill, eh? Isn't that terrible? Isn't that scary, that stuff? Quite amazing. And then China, for its workers, you see, have got helmets that measure emotional state. If you don't like your job and that, they'll notice it. Does the term brain surveillance sound scary to you? Well, some companies in China are hoping to make that potential nightmare into reality. It says this electric company, Hanzhou Zhongeng Electric, is one of several companies equipping its laboratories with helmets that read their brain activity. The idea is that managers at these companies can see with their cold, hard data whether workers are stressed, happy, angry, or sad, and adjust the workflow accordingly. I think they can do it off your computer, actually. I'm sure it can sense a lot of things off you, too. I really can. I really believe that they could do that. Of course, they could always say that it wasn't intentional, and they would just give a certain frequency out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure everything always sounds plausible, doesn't it? Also, I put up also GIRFEC, the organisation, and it runs Scotland, and they're into everybody's families in Scotland. Scotland is so much of a test bed for all this total Sovietized eugenics system. And they've got a petition in there to actually complain about the effect it's had on the public, appointing, when the government appoints agents for every child that's born, who must get into the home every so often, assess everything, to make sure the child's got the proper opinions growing up on different things that you're supposed to have. And they could always, readjust your brain if you don't have them. It's this incredible totalitarianism. It truly is. Truly is. So I'll put a couple of articles on that up as well. And I'm sorry for rushing through this last part, but it's important that we do this because we really, really are in a massive totalitarian system. We really honestly are. And I hate to say it. For myself, Alan Watt from Ontario, Canada, it's good night. I mean, your God or your gods go with you.